Welcome to the CBER Lunchbox Podcast.
Hello, I'm Jess Williams and welcome to the CBER Lunchbox Podcast. Today I am chatting to Owen Middleton, who is a final year PhD student at the University of Sussex. Hi Owen, and welcome to the CBER Lunchbox Podcast. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi Jess, yeah, no worries, great to be here.
So we're going to start off with a few quick fire questions. First one, what is your favourite species?
So changes all the time, but at the moment I think binturong.
What is that?
It's a bear cat, so it's like a viverrid it's in Asia.
That's awesome.
And I just, whenever I go to zoos, I just think they look great and spend so much time just staring at them. And they just seem awesome. Obviously, haven't looked at them or anything in the wild, which would be a dream.
I'm going to Google them after chatting to you today then. Okay.
They smell like popcorn.
That's awesome. Okay. Question 2. What is your favourite fieldwork location?
So I think my favourite fieldwork location would probably be the place where I actually first did fieldwork, which is in my first year of university. And it was a place in Bologna in Spain.
Amazing.
And it was just really, really nice break because we stayed in a really nice little hostel and we drank sangria every night. So yeah, that was pretty nice.
Sounds like the dream. And on that topic, what is your ideal next holiday destination?
I think probably Norway.
Ooh, good one. I have always wanted to go there. Always. It's on my list for sure. What time of year though? Summer or winter?
Ooh, I think summer because I just do not do very well with the cold.
Brilliant. Okay, and now we have a silly would you rather question. Okay, would you rather have hooves for feet or paws for hands?
Oh, wow. Hooves for feet or paws for hands? Well, I'm not really somebody that can do, I can't really pick much stuff up with my feet anyway. So I guess I'll just go hooves for feet.
Brilliant. I would go for the same one, definitely. Okay, so getting on to some of the main questions and talking about how you got into science. So how did you get into science? And did you always want to work in science?
So I didn't particularly, I was never really somebody that thought science was the natural kind of career for me. So I wasn't even somebody that, ran around outside that much, looking for insects or anything. And when I was younger, I was more interested in playing video games, and I was quite from a relatively sort of urban area. But obviously became obsessed with David Attenborough documentaries, as lots of us do. And I actually wanted to be a wildlife filmmaker to begin with. So I was actually considering doing something like that at university. And at the last minute, kind of changed my mind and ended up doing biology. Then in my first year, fell in love with ecology really on the field trip in Bologna in Spain, and didn't really look back and I've been loving it ever since then really.
Brilliant. Have you got any family members working in STEM subjects or that have done a PhD?
No, so I'm first generation.
Woohoo!
Which is nice to be part of that crowd.
Fantastic. Okay, and so when you chat to family and friends, how do you actually describe your PhD?
With great difficulty. So I think this is one of the hardest things to do. And I think after 3 years, I've probably ended up being able to do it. I think they roughly know what I'm doing. My granddad definitely doesn't understand what I'm doing at all, but that's fine. So to begin with, I just sent them the link to the PhD description that I would have applied for. I just said, read that. That'll do better because I don't know what I'm doing at this point.
Did they read it?
They said they did, but they didn't really understand what I was doing still. So who knows? But nowadays I say what I do is related to rewilding, which isn't too far from the truth. So what I do is I look at the world's mammal communities and what they were like before and after human impacts. So I really use the past as inspiration for what we can do for biodiversity and ecosystem kind of functioning and management going forward into the future. And I think that kind of resonates with them on some level. So
it definitely sounds interesting to me. Really interesting stuff. It's quite funny you mentioned your granddad. I think on the opposite side of things, my granny is the only person who has read everything I've published and everything I've written. My mum and dad say they're going to, but never do. So I think my granny's my number one fan. She actually is the only person who knows what I do.
It's funny you say that, actually, because one of my friends has said exactly the same thing about how her granny is just like unbelievably supportive and reads everything and is super interested. So yeah, no, that seems to be a bit of a theme, at least for people that I've spoken to. But yeah, my parents say that they have read some of the stuff that I've managed to get out there so far, and I think they might have done, and they say they understand it. So I guess that counts for something. I don't think my grandparents have gone anywhere near it, to be fair. They just say, "Oh, that sounds great. Like, that sounds great."
Bless them. At least they try. They try.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So now looking at your day-to-day as a PhD student, and I know every day is different, but what does your average day in science look like?
So I wish I could say that, there is no average day, but I feel like for me, I don't know, probably a bit of a lie. I feel like I do have a lockdown, obviously. I feel like it's a bit like Groundhog Day, where I'm just waking up and living the same day over and over and over again, which is trying and failing to do some analysis or some writing, being stuck in the same paragraph for weeks on end. But no, I mean, I think wake up, have coffee, check Twitter for an hour, see what everybody's doing, have a look at my to-do list, don't do anything on my to-do list. But mostly it's I think spending time either writing or data analysis, really depends. Well, at least for me, that's how I spend my time. But obviously that would vary massively depending on what your PhD is, or what research you're doing, whether you need to do lab work but mine is mostly just desk-based. So yeah, it's got a relatively average day, which I've been doing for the past 3 years.
Sounds very similar to mine, especially the coffee part, although I have had to try and wean myself off of coffee a little bit over lockdown, because with such close access to the coffee machine, it's been ridiculous. And I've been shaking and way too awake at times I shouldn't have been.
Hang on, so you've got a coffee machine?
Oh, yes, we do. We have a Nespresso coffee machine.
Very fancy.
And I'm addicted. I'm thinking the money that I'm not spending on commuting into the office can be spent on coffee.
You can justify it, definitely.
Exactly.
Are they recyclable?
I'm looking into trying to find a good reusable coffee pot.
Right.
That's what I really want to find. I'm on a bit of a streak at the moment of trying to find reusable things.
Oh, did you say coffee pot? I thought you said coffee pod. Those things that you put into a machine. Oh, so you do use those?
I do use them.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
No, I'm looking into reusable ones, and also a compost bin, because I have a bit of a garden and we're trying to get into gardening. So I'm getting there. It's slow progress, but I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the PhD and a little bit less about coffee.
But coffee's great.
It's really good. What's the best thing, apart from coffee, about doing a PhD?
Yeah, so that's a tricky question. The best is times where you end up doing something like spending a whole day reading things that aren't directly related to what you're doing, and it's just because you're interested in it. It's semi-related and on some kind of tangent. And I think it's being able to do things like that a little bit guilt-free is quite nice. So you can do work kind of indirectly by just reading stuff you're generally interested in, and that's okay. So I quite like that. I think that's quite nice too. Well, that's quite a nice thing. But yeah, picking the best thing is quite hard, but that's definitely a very good thing about it.
It's good. There are lots of good things about a PhD. So is there anything about your PhD that you didn't expect when you started it?
Yeah, so I said that I was doing a desk-based project, and I think the thing that I didn't expect is actually how much I'd end up liking that, to be honest. So before I started my PhD for my undergraduate and master's research projects, I really wanted to go and do fieldwork and go to some exciting places. But actually, I was very, very surprised at how much I really enjoyed doing. The number of questions you can answer now with so many data sets out there is you can answer so many questions, and you learn so many skills to doing that. But yeah, I guess that was probably the thing that I didn't expect the most is actually how much I'd end up like doing a desk-based project.
That's fantastic. On the other side of things, are there any hurdles that you've had to overcome during your PhD? And if you could go back to that time and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, so to begin with, I guess like everybody else, I really felt the imposter syndrome like really intensely, and also because I was going into this field where I didn't really have much knowledge about prior to starting my PhD, and it seemed like everybody else was miles and miles and miles ahead of me, which was quite spooky. So I really didn't know what I was doing. I was taking people's advice kind of maybe too seriously and not trusting my gut instinct on anything in terms of interesting questions that I wanted to answer and whether they were interesting. But now that I know a tiny bit more, I recognize that I should have just trusted my gut instinct a little bit, and actually the questions I was kind of interested in asking were kind of relevant and also interesting to ask too. So I guess if I could go back, I would just say to myself, have a little bit more faith in yourself and just go with your gut instinct a bit more, and try to overcome that imposter syndrome somehow.
That is a very good piece of advice, and something that I probably should listen to as well. I think, imposter syndrome is very common in academia. And I think it really helps to talk about it, because the more people talk about it, the more of a common thing it seems. And actually, I think it would definitely help me to feel like I'm overcoming it a bit more if I hear other people who I really look up to feel the same way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think actually the thing that helped me with it too is talking with my supervisor and having my supervisor say back to me, I also suffer from imposter syndrome to an extent every now and then. It's not just I've spoken to other academics, and it's quite nice to hear that it's not just you're not alone at PhD level. It's that everyone does have this kind of worry at kind of all stages. But as you say, it's just really important to acknowledge and talk about.
Yeah, I completely agree. Okay, so if you had unlimited funding, very rare in academia, I know, but if you did, what research would you do?
I really struggle with this question. I just couldn't decide on. I was thinking, what really cool questions could you answer if you had unlimited funding? And actually, I just ended up thinking there's so many species out there that are data deficient. We, because of lack of funding, we don't know anything about them and might never do because of that lack of funding. And I thought, a really nice thing to be able to tick off the box, I think, in conservation in general, would be to have more knowledge on these species that are data deficient. And, because of maybe funding, they are data deficient because of that. So I think that could be a really cool way of spending unlimited funding, or at least the start of unlimited funding anyway.
So what you're saying is you want to get back out into the field and go to all the places that haven't been explored very much and look at the biodiversity there.
Oh yeah, I guess that is what I'm saying, isn't it? Oh, look at that.
I think that's a great way to spend that money, personally. Can I join?
People. Yes, absolutely. Of course. Let's get all our friends going.
Yay. Okay, so this next section I've called the good, the bad, and the ugly. So what's been your best experience in science so far?
So I've been really lucky through my PhD to have kind of a little kind of international collaboration with some other early career researchers, and so two PhD students and a postdoc who's now got a position at the university, which is really exciting. So I think actually working or having that kind of extended kind of lab group through this like international collaboration has been something that's, it's been really kind of really nice to be a part of, and I've learned a lot, and they've become really good friends too. So I think that's probably been my best experience in science so far in terms of forming that collaboration there.
I think that's a really good point, and something that I've also thoroughly enjoyed within science, networking with people from all around the world. You learn so many different things, so many different different ways people go about research and so many tips and pieces of advice. I think it's fantastic. I also hear you've been lucky enough to travel around a lot throughout your career so far, from working with Operation Wallacea in Mexico to camping in Death Valley. And yes, I was stalking you a bit on Facebook. So what's the funniest thing that's happened during your time in the field?
Oh, the funniest thing. Well, that's a hard question. I guess the reason why it's a hard question is that, every day there's funny things that happen. You're always being a little bit silly. So I guess things like howl a monkey poop in the face kind of comes to mind, but that's probably a bit of a like cliche for people who've done, managed to do some field work in kind of the Americas, or Central Southern America anyway. So there's nothing that really springs to mind in terms of the funniest thing. That makes me sound really boring.
I mean,
let's go for howl a monkey poop in the face.
Great. As long as it's not happening to you, I think could be very funny, yes.
Oh, it happened to me.
I'd find that funny.
It smelled.
Oh, okay. Now going from funny to scary, have you got any scary stories from field experiences?
Again, this is just going to be another one that makes me sound really boring, I think. So I'm quite risk averse, I think. So I try to avoid danger, and I think I do a pretty good job at avoiding scary situations. But I guess there's times when you're climbing up really steep hills, and when I was in doing some field work in Mexico, there's these really, really, really intensely spiky trees that there was one time where I almost slipped down this hill and went rolling down into these spiky trees and ended up getting some spikes in my hand. But I think I haven't had a face off with a snake or anything like that, so I'm sure you'll get a lot more interesting answers to that question from other people, but I'm probably pretty sensible, so
it's good to know. It's a good piece of advice. Be sensible. Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Okay. And then quickly, what's one object that you should always make sure you take on your trips into the field?
I think wet wipes. Useful for so many things.
Brilliant. Okay.
Just to make you feel more comfortable, you can have a wet wipe shower. It's I think one thing I wouldn't go into the field without personally.
Well, there you have it. You've heard it from Owen Middleton himself. Wet wipes is a thing to take. Okay. And now moving on to work-life balance, which is important and has been talked about a lot more, which is really good. What do you do in your free time to take your mind away from work? And I do see again from following you on Instagram that you've got some paddleboarding photos, and that is one thing that I cannot do. I try standing up on it and I just fall off. So have you got any tips, and what else do you do in your free time?
So are you doing it when it's wavy? That's the first thing.
I've tried it in waves and on still water, and it didn't get any better on either.
So I'd say my first tip would be, if it's your first time, don't do it on a wavy day, which is what I did, and thought that I'd never be able to do it. And then I realized, oh wait, I can just go when it's less wavy, and it's a little bit easier. So yeah, in terms of tips, I'd say wait for a clear day. Just keep standing up until you stop falling off, maybe. And I mean, having the fin on underneath the board also helps, because I didn't do that the first time I went out, and it makes it very unsteady. Okay. And I was wondering why it was so difficult, and it's because I forgot to put something onto the paddleboard that was really important. So definitely put that on.
Will do.
I think starting in rivers is though, because I'm down in Brighton, so it's a little bit harder than doing it in rivers.
And what else do you do in your free time apart from paddleboarding?
So I enjoy bouldering, like everybody else has started getting into nowadays, and I generally just like being active outside, whether that's hiking, walking. really got into running during lockdown again, as I know a lot of people have done. So I've run 2 half marathons, which I was pretty proud of.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever be able to do one, and I did 2. Not 2, one after the other. I didn't do a marathon, but I did 2 separate half marathons.
That's the next step. Next step, marathon.
Maybe. Let's. I started getting shin splints, which I didn't even really know were a thing. I just thought that was just something that some people complained about, and they were just, I don't know, they weren't actually real, but apparently they are, and they really hurt. So I went in a bit too fast, I think, with the running.
Oh dear. Okay, as it's still lockdown, who would believe it? Have you picked up any new hobbies or activities during this last year, which you maybe wouldn't have done otherwise, apart from running?
I think the one that I have started doing that I wouldn't have done anyway is I've started having a go at felting.
Yes, I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite fun. So I got a felting kit for Christmas, which was a fox felting kit. I asked my mum if I could get one. She went, "Really? Is that really what you want?" I was like, "Yes, of course, is what I want. I'm not lying." And yeah, I thought it was really fun, and I've done a few more things since then.
What have you made?
So I've made a fox, which looks absolutely nothing like the fox on the box that it came in. It obviously looks like bad taxidermy. Terrible. But my mum's proud of it, and that's, all that matters. I've made a tamandua because I thought that would be easy, but not easy at all. And the last one I made was Toothless the Dragon from How to Train Your Dragon.
That is brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I was
quite proud of it. Not gonna lie, that was definitely better than the bad taxidermy fox and tamandua. Yeah, my latest one is, I don't know if you've watched Avatar, not the Blue People film, the cartoon Avatar.
I think I've seen it a bit, but I'm not an avid watcher.
So that was a lockdown watch with my housemate, with my housemates, and we all enjoyed that much more than we thought we would. But there's these things called sky bisons in it, so I've also made a sky bison.
So for anyone who's listening who's watched Avatar, you know what that is. I will Google that later again.
They're very cute.
Well, that's all that matters then. That's great.
And it's also quite easy to do because it's just a big white ball.
I'm kind of now imagining a sheep with no legs.
Oh no, it's got 6 legs actually.
Obviously, I'm yes.
Yeah, I know. Clearly, you haven't watched it.
Well, I'm nearing the end of my current series I'm watching, so I will look it up.
It is actually, give it a go. I think it does take a few episodes to get into, but it's a nice series.
I'll put it on my watch list. Okay, so finally, we've come to the closing questions. What are your 3 top tips for getting into science?
What when you say getting into science, what do you mean? Science is quite broad, obviously. So
I guess
do you mean becoming interested in it in the first place?
I guess anyone with an interest, let's narrow it down to conservation or ecology, biology, anyone with an interest in those kind of areas, how can they get to where you are? So maybe doing a PhD or doing some kind of research assistant position in conservation, ecology, biology.
Yeah, okay. So I guess the kind of key tip, first of all, whatever kind of stage you're at, is first of all kind of be curious and get out there and explore as much as you can and see as much as you can. If you've got any local birding spots, just try and immerse yourself as much as you can. I think if you're already at university and you're looking to progress into doing a PhD or something, I think there's so much research that's obviously happening at the university. I think that's kind of, at least I didn't really realize how approachable a lot of lecturers are, who are obviously engaged in active research and probably have loads of data sets that they're just sitting on and need somebody to have a go at analyzing them. And I guess really ask lecturers and see if there's anything you can get involved with in any way. I know at least that, so I'm based at the University of Sussex, and I know that there's, a bunch of undergrads that do, get in touch with academics and ask if they can get involved with various things, and then they end up doing that. And it's a lot of times people that do that do end up actually doing PhDs, maybe with that person they got in contact with. So I think it's, be curious, explore, and ask, talk to people. I think it's probably my top tip, which might be quite an obvious one, but I think it's an important thing to do.
I think that's brilliant and a fantastic top tip to end on. Thank you so much, Owen, for joining us at CBER Lunchbox Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I have.
Yeah, it's been great. It's hopefully it's been interesting for everybody listening, and also you, of course.
It has, and I hopefully will see you at a conference or in real life and not virtual life soon. Fingers crossed.
Let's hope so.
Thank you, Owen.
Yeah. No worries. No, it's been great chatting.